Return of the Condor Heroes is remembered as the greatest love story in the Jin Yong universe, the impossible reunion of Yang Guo and Xiaolong Nu, the little dragon maiden. But that story has a shadow. A girl watching the reunion happen, standing close enough to touch him, but she could only watch and cry as the couple passed. Her name was Guo Xiang. This is the story of the greatest heartbreak in Return of the Condor Heroes, which would give rise to the Emei Sect, one of the strongest martial arts factions ever to exist in the martial world. Let's begin the story. Birth amidst the flames, 1243 AD. The city of Xiangyang was besieged by Mongol forces under Kublai Khan. In the midst of that chaos, between smoke and blood, Huang Rong went into sudden labor. Twin babies were born. The elder was named Shang as an eternal reminder of the besieged city. The younger was named Polu, meaning destroyer of barbarians, in accordance with the wishes of their father, Guo Jing. But baby Guo Xiang's fate was not yet settled simply by being born safely. Before she was even a day old, the tiny infant had already changed hands. Little Dragon Maiden briefly took her as a bargaining chip for a poison antidote, then changed her mind. Li Mu Chao, the cold-blooded killer, snatched her away, thinking she was the child of Yang Guo and Little Dragon Maiden. And shockingly, Li Mu Chao, a woman who had committed many cruel murders, cared for baby Guo Xiang with great affection. That innocent baby was even able to soften the heart of a killer. Since there was no milk for little Guo Xiang, she caught a female leopard and gave its milk to her. From birth, Guo Xiang was destined to live among extraordinary things. Childhood in Xiangyang Fortress, 1243 to 1259 AD. After finally returning to Huang Rong's arms, Guo Xiang grew up in the city that shared her name, Xiangyang. She was raised by two legendary parents, Guo Jing with his iron-willed spirit of justice, and Huang Rong with a sharp intelligence that exceeded any sword. Guo Xiang inherited both. Not only that, there were many great figures who shaped her from childhood. Guo Jing, her father, the northern hero, one of the great fives of that era. Huang Rong, her mother, former chief of the Beggar Sect and daughter of the Eastern Heretic. Huang Yaoxi, the Eastern Heretic, one of the Great Fives, her grandfather from Peach Blossom Island. Lu Yaojia, the chief of the Beggar Sect and her good friend. The Wu brothers, disciples of Guo Jing and grand disciples of Reverend Yi Deng. Ke Jena, leader of the Seven Freaks of Jiangnan, teacher of his father. First encounter with Yang Guo, 1259 AD. Then came the moment that changed everything. At a snowy inn at Fengling Ferry, Guo Xiang heard stories of a one-armed swordsman with a giant condor who was shaking the martial world. Yang Guo, the Condor Hero. Guo Xiang could not stay still. She went to find him, even though her sister forbade it. Finally, they met in the forest. She was 16 years old. Yang Guo was about 36, twice her age. But at that moment, age felt irrelevant. Yang Guo greatly liked Guo Xiang's friendly, innocent nature and sincere heart. He gave her 3 golden needles, a guarantee for 3 requests she could make for anything, anytime. And Guo Xiang used them immediately. First request. She asked Yang Guo to remove his mask because she wanted to see his face. Second request. She invited Yang Guo to celebrate her 16th birthday in Xiangyang. Third request, the heaviest. Used at the bottom of the passionless cliff, she forbade Yang Guo from ending his life. 3 requests, 3 moments, and behind it all, a feeling of love she never dared to fully voice. On Guo Xiang's 16th birthday, Xiangyang celebrated. Warriors from all corners gathered. And in the middle of it all, Yang Guo came, just as promised. He presented 3 grand gifts that night. 1. He defeated the Mongol forces by cutting off the left ears of 2,000 Mongol soldiers. 2. He exposed the secret of Huo Do, who had killed Lu Yaojia, the chief of the Beggar Sect. 3. He burned the Mongol army's granaries and provided a beautiful firework display that spelled out birthday wishes for Guo Xiang.
Guo Xiang watched it all with teary eyes. She was very happy, but behind the grandeur of those gifts, she also realized a painful truth. Young Guo did this as a form of respect and gratitude to her parents, who had done much for him. Guo Xiang was merely the formal reason, the girl who happened to have a birthday that night. She was the recipient of the gifts, but not the owner of the giver's heart. Abduction and the Leap from the Cliff, 1259 AD. Jin Yong Guo Shi, the Golden Wheel royal advisor, saw Guo Xiang searching for Yang Guo. He tricked and captured her. Seeing her brave and kind nature, he intended to make her his disciple and successor to replace Huo Du, who was killed by Yang Guo. Guo Xiang refused. She managed to trick him into going to the Passionless Valley to meet Yang Guo, who had been waiting for Little Dragon Maiden for 16 years. At the Passionless Cliff, from a distance, Guo Xiang saw Yang Guo jump off the cliff, thinking Little Dragon Maiden was gone. Without a second thought, Guo Xiang jumped after him. Not because she wanted to die, but because it was the only way she knew to show she cared. At the bottom of the abyss, she used the third golden needle to beg Yang Guo to keep living, not to give up. This act was clear proof that Guo Xiang's love had transcended logic and the fear of death. The Great Battle and Eternal Parting, 1259 AD. When the Mongol forces launched a massive attack on Xiangyang, the Golden Wheel royal advisor tied Guo Xiang to a burning wooden platform. It was a psychological tactic to make the defenders surrender. But Guo Xiang did not scream for help or beg for mercy. She chose not to surrender and was ready to die with her city. At the critical moment, Yang Guo arrived just in time to save her. As the burning platform began to fall toward her, unexpectedly, the Golden Wheel royal advisor sacrificed himself to save her. Guo Xiang was stunned by this sacrifice and finally called him master. The battle ended in a total defeat for the enemy. A few weeks later, the warriors gathered at Mount Hua for the third Duel on Mount Hua to determine the new Great Fives. Guo Xiang was present, not as a participant, but as a witness. Also present was monk Zhu Yuan from Shaolin with his disciple Zhang Junbao. Zhang Junbao would later be known as Zhang Sanfeng, the founder of the Wudong sect. As Yang Guo and Little Dragon Maiden bid their farewells, Guo Xiang's tears flowed. She knew that only Little Dragon Maiden could fill Yang Guo's heart. There was no place for her. Later become the foundation of 2 great sects, Emei and Wudong, which were founded by Guo Xiang and Zhang Junbao respectively. After that, they parted for the last time and never met again. The Fall of Xiangyang, 1273 AD. For 30 years, Guo Jing and Huang Rong defended Xiangyang. On January 31, 1273, Xiangyang finally fell. Guo Jing fell. Huang Rong fell. Guo Po Lu fell with them. So did her sister, Guo Fu, and her husband, Ye Lu Qi. Guo Xiang was out of the city on his journey, looking for Yang Guo, making her the only surviving member of Guo Jing's family. However, before the city collapsed, Guo Jing and Huang Rong made one last historic decision to melt down the weapons inherited from Yang Guo and Little Dragon Maiden into 2 legendary weapons, the Heaven Sword and the Dragon Sabre. Inside these 2 weapons were hidden maps to precious manuals, the Nine Yin Manual, the 18 dragon-subduing palms, and the military strategy book of legendary General Yu Fei. The Heaven Sword was given to Guo Xiang. The Dragon Sabre was given to Guo Po Lu, which was then lost in the chaos of war.
In one night, Guo Xiang lost her parents, her brother and sister, and also her city. Enlightenment and the birth of the Emei Sect, approximately 1283 AD. For a decade after the fall of Xiangyang, Guo Xiang continued to wander, carrying a sword that held a great secret, carrying a wound that never healed, carrying the memory of someone who could never be hers. But at around age 40, something changed within her. An enlightenment. She finally understood. 2 decades of unrequited love for Yang Guo had only brought suffering, not because her love was wrong, but because she had stood too long at a door that was never open for her. She decided to let go of her longing for Yang Guo, not with bitterness, but with wisdom. She went to Mount Emei, took the tonsure of a nun, and founded what would later be known as one of the most respected martial arts sects in the world, the Emei Sect. A sect led only by women, built from the martial legacy of the Guo family, the fragments of the Nine Yin Manual recited by Guo Xiang, and all the knowledge she had gained over years of wandering. At almost the same time, Zhang Junbao, her old friend from Shaolin, who later changed his name to Zhang Sanfeng, founded the Wudong sect. 2 people who had heard the same scripture in the final breath of an old monk, each building an invaluable legacy. As the only surviving member of the Guo family from the Xiangyang tragedy, Guo Xiang held the secret hidden within the Heaven Sword and the Dragon Sabre. Half of the key to that secret lay within the Dragon Sabre, the legendary blade belonging to her twin brother, Guo Polu, which had been lost during the war. She decided that this secret should only be passed down orally from one leader of the Emei Sect to the next, generation after generation. While leading the sect, Guo Xiang constantly deployed her disciples to search for the saber. She wished to reunite her parents' legacy, but until the end of her life, the search ended in vain. The dragon saber remained missing, a mystery that haunted the martial world. The next generations. Her first disciple she named Abbess Fengling, the nun of Fengling Ferry. The memory of the place where she first met Yang Guo she carried for life as the name of her successor. Fast forward several decades to the Yuan dynasty era. The Emei sect had transformed into one of the 6 great orthodox sects, most pious and respected in upholding justice. The baton of leadership eventually reached the 3rd generation, Abbess Miege. Miege was a very stern leader, ruthless toward enemies. She held the Heaven Sword firmly and continued to actively search for the Dragon Saber. Miju's favorite disciple, Zhou Zero, eventually became the central figure who succeeded in breaking the secret of the 2 legendary weapons in the story of the Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber. However, Zhou Zero later decided to become a nun and handed these 2 treasures to Zhang Wuji, who would later succeed in defeating the Mongols. What began with a young girl's heartbreak at Fengling Ferry, hundreds of years later, turned into a struggle for treasures that determined the fate of the entire Chinese mainland. Under Guo Xiang's leadership, the Emei sect grew not just as a place of seclusion, but as a fortress of righteousness. She instilled the principles of resistance against Mongol tyranny, continuing the flame of struggle once sacrificed by Guo Jing and Huang Rong in Xiangyang. Time passed, and the little Eastern heretic eventually grew old. Guo Xiang passed away peacefully. Her exact date of death and final resting place were never recorded in the history of the Jianghu. She left behind a world that had once given her profound heartbreak, but the legacy she built was ready to shake the future. Guo Xiang never got the love she wanted. She could not save her city. She could not prevent the people she loved from leaving. But from all those losses, she built something eternal. The sect she founded still stands, and the name Emei is still spoken with respect throughout the martial world. Guo Xiang was never the main character in any story, but she is the reason why the stories that followed could exist. And in Part 2, we'll discuss the next biggest heartbreak in the Condor trilogy, so stay tuned. If you like content like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment with your favorite Jin Yong character below. See you in the next video.